Very important question. Have I ever steered you wrong? Well, okay, general enabling doesn't count. Have I ever steered you wrong in a genuinely bad way? No? Well, today I'm going to tell you all about something called the Fediverse, and it's going to be a little bit technical in places, so I'm just going to ask you to trust me and go with it. This is worth knowing about, it's relevant to crafters, and hopefully I can sum up the whys and the wherefores in a way that isn't completely insufferable. We'll briefly cover what the Fediverse is, why you should care, and on the off chance you do fancy giving it a go, I'll go over the easiest way for you to join us. Most of you, of course, will not be interested in that last part, and that is totally fine. I'm honestly not here to sway anybody. But I think it is good to know about big trends like this, partially so you can make informed decisions, but partially just because nobody really expects fibre crafters to be super up on technical stuff. Imagine the looks on their stupid dismissive faces when it turns out you know exactly what you're talking about. So, the main question you have right now is probably, Michelle, what on earth are you talking about? What is a Fediverse? And at a surface level, you can think of it like this. Fediverse is just the name that's been given to a group of social media platforms that all have a few important things in common. For example, you've probably heard me talk about Mastodon a lot over the last year or so. Mastodon is one of the platforms making up the Fediverse. Lemmy is another one. PeerTube, where I also upload all of my videos, that's another one. Hi people watching this on PeerTube, please forgive my simplistic explanation, this video is for a very specific audience. And as you can see, these three examples are very different. Mastodon is microblogging like Twitter. Lemmy is discussion forums around particular topics like Reddit. And PeerTube is obviously video content like YouTube. So what makes these very different platforms part of the so-called Fediverse? Well, the main thing is that they're all built on the same base technology and they work in a similar way under the hood, so they can all talk to each other. Imagine if you could read your friend's Facebook post and leave a comment on it. You could watch your other friend's YouTube video and leave a comment on that, all without leaving your favourite app, TikTok. Well, someone with a Mastodon account can reply to my Lemmy forum threads. They can subscribe to my videos on PeerTube and watch and leave comments without ever leaving Mastodon or needing another account. I don't personally use PixelFed, which is basically Fediverse Instagram, but Dave does, so I just follow him from my Mastodon account and see all of his photos just the same. That's really the main thing you need to know to understand why these things have all been grouped together under the name Fediverse. Just platforms that can all interact with each other. Simple enough, and now you already know more about this topic than probably like 99% of people. Another important thing Fediverse platforms have in common is their culture. Compared to the fast-paced, influencer hustle, rage-bait algorithm parts of the internet, the vibe on Fedi is just a lot slower and more relaxed. There's a focus on inclusivity and empathy, accessibility, and just generally being more aware of the needs of other people around you, which is a really nice change, let me tell you. Obviously, the culture of each Fedi platform isn't exactly the same, and there are plenty of bad eggs just like there are anywhere else, but overall, the vibe is just a lot more chill. Right now, as I'm recording this video, some Fediverse platforms are way more mature and ready for prime time than others, and Mastodon is the standout example of this. It's essentially the Fediverse's version of Twitter, except not hateful and toxic. It's where I spend the vast majority of my social media time these days, and it's where I generally recommend newcomers start out. But if you look at the Join Mastodon page, you might be confused by words like server, making it all sound really complicated. This puts a lot of people off, but it's actually really simple. The problem is just that the absolute nerds who build these sorts of things are so bad at communicating with normal people. So let me give it a shot. You know how the internet isn't an actual thing so much as just a collection of servers with different websites running on them that all come together to form what we know as the internet? Well, Mastodon, the platform, is a collection of servers running the Mastodon software and all coming together in much the same way. That's all the server thing is referencing. It sounds way more complicated at first than it actually is. I might be on server A and you're on server B, but we're both on Mastodon and we can chat just fine. Congrats! Now you know more than about 99.9% of people about this topic. So your next question is probably, that sounds really weird. Why should I care about any of this when Twitter, Reddit, Instagram and YouTube already exist? And I would say you should care about it for a few reasons actually. I already mentioned that because these platforms work together, you can often follow and interact with people on a completely different Fediverse platform without needing a separate account. But how many people have you lost touch with over the years just because they stopped using whatever social media platform you knew them from? Maybe you even lost touch with me a bit when I stopped using Instagram as much. And yes, I know I need to get back on there sometime, it's a whole other thing. Well, when my Mastodon friends decide to move to Ice Shrimp, yep, that's another one, A, I can still follow those accounts from Mastodon, and B, depending what service exactly they're moving from and to, it might even be done automatically and I will probably never even notice that they moved. And of course there is the elephant in the room, the fact that most of the big social media platforms tend to be owned by insane evil billionaires, which it feels pretty good to no longer be contributing to because Fediverse platforms are what's called open source, which means by definition they can't have these shady secretive algorithms running everything in the background without us knowing what they're doing. And that's just one example of a thing that makes a lot of other social media kind of a slog these days. Fancy a social network without all of those annoying ads? Fedi has you covered. But all of these reasons are pretty technical. If you're watching my channel, you're probably a crafter of some kind, so what you should mostly care about is that the Fediverse is home to a wonderful, thriving community of crafters, makers, and artists of all kinds. They are talented, they are friendly, they're helpful and supportive, and they're just generally awesome. Mastodon specifically is home to a lot of knitters and sewists, and admittedly fewer cross-stitchers, although our numbers are growing a lot lately. It's also shown me how many people are into weaving, not to mention convinced me to give Tunisian crochet a whirl. When I was struggling to approach knitting my first doll recently, it was a kind person on Mastodon who tracked down the exact vintage pattern I needed. When a crocheter recently came to us for beginner knitting advice, it was Lemmy that stepped up and helped her achieve her first pair of knitted socks. Lemmy has discussion forums for all kinds of crafts, and I'll put up a list here which is really just a fraction of them. It's a much newer platform than Mastodon and doesn't have huge numbers yet, but the people who are there are brilliant. I did accidentally become moderator of the knitting community there, and now I'm also accidentally moderator of the cross-stitch and embroidery community as well. I don't know, these things just happen to me, okay? Remember when we used to actually get to know each other on places like Instagram? Where you would take part in an event with a specific hashtag, and you would see a cool project posted in the recent posts feed for that hashtag, and you'd get talking to the person who made it, and you'd end up with a new actual friend. And then remember how they took the hashtag feed away so we couldn't do events anymore, how they shifted to performative video and constant ads, and how they made all kinds of interface changes clearly designed to try and stop us from typing more than about 3 words in a row. Yeah, I'm mad about it. But that sense of community, the ability to seek out and find new people in your hobby who are actual real people just being themselves and not dancing to an algorithm, that is the Fediverse right now, and it's only continuing to get better. It's casual, it's so undemanding, and it's just nice in a way that social media hasn't been for such a long time. And yeah, it's a big change. It's a scary new thing. Starting out on a new platform is hard. But everything we currently use was new and scary at some point, and I think you'd still agree it was probably worth moving off MySpace for most of us. Ultimately, all I can tell you is I find most social media to be really draining. It's stressful to feel like you have to post all the time or you'll be punished for taking a break. It's only too easy to fall into the trap of worrying about engagement or keeping up with the ever-changing rules about what type of content currently gets the most reach. And if you absolutely love the current state of social media and none of that worries you at all, then brilliant. Keep doing what you're doing. It's great that we all have options. But if you are like me, if you hate the obligation of regular social media, if you hate the constant interruptions by things that you never even chose to follow, maybe you even find yourself taking social media breaks because keeping up with it all just got to be too much. Well, I love the Fediverse and I think you might too. Alright, consider yourselves edumacated. I'm aware that the vast majority of you are probably nodding along in that way that you do when someone is enthusiastically banging on about something that you just have no interest in whatsoever. In which case, thank you very much for sticking with me this long. You might want to duck out of the video at this point though, because we are about to get stuck into how you can get started sharing your crafts with this whole new audience. We'll return to my more standard content soon, and I hope to see you back next week. Now for the interested parties. There are so many Fediverse services out there, and most of them have a big tech equivalent to make sense of what you're looking at, but I'm just going to keep this simple as per. Ignore the rest, start out on Mastodon, and you can branch out later as and when you are ready. And specifically, just hit this button to sign up on mastodon.social. If you use the official mobile app instead of the website, I believe that also defaults you to .social. So what does this mean? Well, remember earlier when we talked about how Mastodon is a series of different servers all running the Mastodon software and coming together to form the platform as a whole? Well, this also means that your account needs to belong to one of those servers, and .social is by far the biggest, which comes with a few advantages when you're really new. Think of it like training wheels while you get your bearings, and if you don't like it there, or you find another server that you think might be a bit more you can easily transfer all of your stuff over, so no worries, not worth overthinking. Once you're all signed up, your username will look a bit like an email address with an extra @ symbol at the beginning. Whereas on something like Instagram, I'm just @theGiddyStitcher, on Mastodon I'm @theGiddyStitcher @sunny.garden, where sunny.garden is the server that I'm on. You might be @awesomecrafter69 @mastodon.social. There could be an awesomecrafter69 on another server too, but if you think about it, that's exactly how emails work, so we're all kind of used to that really. What to do now? Get out there and start meeting people. Mastodon mostly runs on hashtags, so you can search for #knitting, #cross-stitch, whatever. And you can follow tags, which means posts using them will start to show up in your home timeline. If you see a particularly interesting post or get talking to someone, you can follow them specifically. There's no personalized algorithm that's going to go out and find random posts it thinks you like, so you'll need to build a home feed yourself over time. If somebody posts in multiple languages, you can subscribe to just the ones you understand. If you like their posts but they share too many other people's posts that you don't care about, which is called boosting, you can just hide their boosts and stay following their posts. And if there's a particular hashtag or word that you really never ever want to see, you can add a filter to just remove it from existence as far as you're concerned. Got some people you never want to miss a post from? Hit the bell and get a notification every time. Want to group certain folks together and read their posts in a separate feed? Add them to a list. As you can see, Mastodon really gives you a lot of tools to turn your feed into exactly what you want it to be. And another advantage of it being open source is that anybody can make tools for it. Which means there is an official mobile app, but there are also plenty of alternatives that look different or just have slightly different ways of organising and displaying content that you might prefer. You're not just stuck with the official one if you don't like it. What sort of thing should you post? Pretty much anything you want. Use hashtags so people can find your content, and also be aware that Mastodon users appreciate things like alt text on posted images and using the content warning feature if you're posting about potentially triggering content. If in doubt, just remember the golden rule of making your posts accessible and inclusive wherever possible. It's also a good idea to make an introduction post. Include the hashtag introduction as well as any other relevant ones and tell people about yourself. Anyone following one of those tags or doing a search for them is likely to see your introduction post, and you might be surprised by just how enthusiastic a welcome you get. What else do you need to know? The star icon is a favourite. Basically a like. But since there's no personal algorithm, favourites don't really do much other than tell the person you liked what they posted. Use this liberally because it makes people feel seen and appreciated, and that's just nice for everybody involved. If you want to save a post to find it later, you can use the bookmark icon. And if you think something deserves to be seen by more people, you can boost it, which shares it with your followers, like a retweet essentially. Explore, investigate the various settings, check out trending tags, generally spend some time finding your way around. Maybe even try the advanced interface if you're on desktop and you're feeling spicy. And of course, do come and follow me. Which leads on to my last tip. With Mastodon users being spread across all kinds of different servers, you might be confused about how to follow somebody who doesn't turn up in your feed. If someone gives you their Mastodon handle in the format we saw before, just stick the whole thing into your search bar and there you go. I won't go into the technical reasons why that's the best way to do it, but just, that keeps it simple. Search bar, follow. Now, this video would definitely not be complete without a big disclaimer. The Fediverse is a very new way to internet for most of us. Many of the connected platforms are in their infancy, and there is a lot of jank. You'll find that sometimes things just don't work together quite as smoothly as they ultimately aim to do. For those of us who grew up with the early internet, the jank is actually kind of part of the charm, and it makes things feel like home in a way. But if you've only ever used those huge, slick, big tech platforms, then yeah, absolutely, being part of something that's still finding its feet could be kind of annoying. This is actually the big reason why I've recommended Mastodon.social. It's the least janky server on the least janky platform, and so hopefully you shouldn't have too many issues. But if you are feeling adventurous and you want to try a different server instead, or even a completely different platform like PixelFed or Lemmy or whatever, I'll put a few resources down in the description, and of course you could always come and pester me. I am only too happy to talk your ear off about all of this stuff. As always then, a huge thank you to my enablers over on Ko-fi for supporting the channel. And especially to my Stitch squad. Marianne Johnson, Sunny, Candy Riley Penninger, Laura Salatz, Rosalie, Enlightened Flamingo, Cross Stitch the Globe, and Cher Condon. I'll see you soon for some more crafty nonsense, so in the meantime, have a brilliant rest of your day and keep making cool stuff. Bye!